Oh god. Welcome, this is Nathan and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Canada forms an empire. Now definitely one of the countries I'm shocked I haven't done yet. But Canada's in a very interesting spot. I mean, Mexico is in the same situation, but they had Central America to expand into in the Caribbean. Canada, they literally border the United States and Denmark, but you know, they literally border the United States. I mean, like, you can't really get more. You know what I mean? They're the number one country in the world. You border them, you expand, you die. So, Canada is going to have to be very lucky. Let's just say that. They're going to have to be very lucky with how they're going to do their expansion here. So to begin with, Canada's first target is going to be Greenland. This is their only target, as Greenland is... Look, technically Denmark will get involved, but even then I think Canada could beat Denmark, no problem. By the way, NATO does not exist, just to let you know. I don't have to keep repeating that. But anyway, Canadian troops will land in Greenland and will take the capital of Nuuk. And, now after you take, well, the areas highlighted in pink, you kind of win. Now, I am aware, invading Greenland will be a very tough task, but if you take the areas I just shown there, you've kind of won the war. Those are Greenland's most populated areas, and there's no point in invading any further because you're invading literal ice. Anyway, with Greenland down, Canada has gained a lot of natural resources, and they're not done their island hopping campaign because they're going straight into Iceland. The Icelandics. Canada will now be invading Iceland, and this is probably going to be a bit harder than Greenland, maybe not. Canadian troops land and capture Husavik and will quickly take over this area of Iceland, and there goes Iceland. This might be one of the first times I've ever mentioned Iceland in my videos, maybe not. But they're relevant, kind of shocking. The peace treaty, Iceland will be fully annexed. Now, with Canada's entrance into Europe and aggressive expansion, Europe is going to kind of look at Canada and go, well, mostly the British and French, but they're going to kind of go, stay out of Europe. And what is Canada's response to that? No, because this is my only area to expand. Canada's next target, and strongest target, will be Norway. Now, going from Iceland to Norway, I don't know if the Canada's buffed and all that, so don't worry, they can do this expansion. Now, this is a long way away. At this rate, this can be classed as a colony, because, I mean, mainland Canada is over here, meanwhile Norway's over here, so this could be classed as a colony, but I wouldn't say that. I mean, there aren't really any colonies except like French Guiana in real life. Anyway, troops will land right here in Norway and will begin to expand around. This is definitely going to be the most challenging war for Canada yet, but they really don't face much resistance. The main goal is capturing Oslo, which is done successfully in their most bloodiest battle. And they begin sneaking around the coastline, taking all the major cities. And eventually, once, you know, this part of Norway's gone, you've kind of won the war. The Norwegians will definitely hold on the mountains for a little bit, but speed up, Norway will surrender. Let's take a look at this peace treaty. Taking a look at this peace treaty, we can see that Canada will annex a huge piece of Norway, and will also annex Svalbard. Now at this point, Europe is like, okay, will you stop? Canada's not very popular in Europe now, especially because they just invaded a pretty, mid-power country. And Canada's kind of like, okay, we'll stop for now, but we can't promise anything. At this point, Canada is stretched out a long way. I mean, they're all the way in Europe now, so they're transcontinental country. But where does Canada go now? Europe is not a choice. You can't invade the United States. What do? Well, Canada's gonna not do anything for a couple years, as they let tensions in Europe calm down. But those tensions are not. But those tensions are brought up again as Canada will now be invading Ireland. Europe is like, brother, we just said don't invade Europe. And Canada's like, I can't. Canada can't expand anywhere else. This is literally the only place they can expand. So Canadian ships will make their landing in Ireland and will begin to expand out. Now, the British are not going to get involved. The British are like, they kind of think that this is going to be Canada's last expansion in Europe, which it might possibly be. But we see but anyway, Ireland gets absolutely steamrolled as there is no hope for them. And well, like most of the countries Canada's invaded, except for Norway, Ireland will be fully annexed. Now, the UK is like, hold on, what are you doing? And to be fair, I would be in the same boat with you, UK right now. Canada has invaded Iceland, Ireland, and a part of Norway, and this is like surrounding the United Kingdom. They now border the United Kingdom, and the UK's like, "What are you doing?" And Canada's like, "We're not doing anything." Wink, wink. Kidding. They probably won't invade the UK. If they invade the UK, that's just gonna activate Europe to blow. That's gonna activate Europe to absolutely destroy Canada, because Europe is very against Canadian expansion in Europe, and honestly, Canada's probably done in Europe now. So now what? You really only have one option left, and that's the United States or maybe the Caribbean, but I wouldn't honestly do that. There's not much there, other than maybe Cuba or rotting away Haiti. So, Canada's going to wait a couple more years. In this period, they train up their army, and they get up to the top 5, which is absolutely insane. But to take down the United States of America, they need to be very smart. So they go get some countries, 4 countries in particular. They go to Mexico, they ally with Mexico, they ally with Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Now, these aren't actually alliances. These are more like, you'll see. But Canada's army is built up to the high max at this point. They can't really go any further with their army because, well, they kind of can't. They don't really got the population. But Canada will before Canada does what they're about to do, they go back to Europe and will decide to invade one last country here, and that country is none other. Oh, I think I just coloured the ocean. That country is none other than Norway again. Oh, Norway, you just can't get a break. Canada will declare war on Norway for the second time, and at this point, Europe is like, really? Honestly, at this rate, Europe probably doesn't care. Canadian troops will march in and absolutely obliterate Norway, which they are crippled. But Canada will absolutely obliterate Norway within a couple of weeks, as Norway will completely collapse and fall over to the Canadians. So let's take a look at this peace treaty. In the peace treaty, Canada will annex the final resource areas of Norway and will publish the rest of Norway. But at this point, Canada is officially done in Europe. There is no more. Well, they could keep expanding because they are number 5, but they're not going to. And at this point, Canada is gonna. Well, yeah, let's just say Canada's gonna attempt one of the dumbest things ever. Canada will declare war on the United States of America. This shocks the world. This is a bold move, but get it, bold eagle. Okay, I'm not funny. This is a really bold move. To be invading the strongest country in the world when you're nowhere near their strength is a very bold move. But don't think Canada's just alone. Don't think that. Because Canada fought this one through a lot. Not too long after the original war, Mexico, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela all joined the war against the United States. Now, this is a American gangbang, but even then, all these countries are weak except for Mexico and Venezuela. Even with Mexico and Nicaragua, Cuba and Venezuela, I still don't think they can win this. With how buff Canada is, I still don't think they can win this. Canada is going to try their best at winning. Canada is going to chuck everything they have at this war, which is not maybe a good idea for your empire, but it's kind of what they gotta do. Canada will immediately jump into Alaska, taking over this area and grabbing Anchorage and another city I forgot the name of. And with that, they siege Alaska. I mean, other than those two cities, the one I can't name, the Anchorage, there's not really much left in Alaska. This is going to help that war a lot, as Alaska is filled with oil, and to be honest, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, and Alaska are going to really help Canada with resources in this war, because those areas are resource galore. Anyway, to Mexico, they will begin invasion of Texas, and it goes well at first until it doesn't. I mean, Mexico has internal problems, this ain't going to go anywhere. Mexico invades a little bit of America before America arrives. But at this point, it's, there's millions of Canadians flooding into Maine. Surprisingly, when Canada moves into Maine is actually, in open arms to join Canada. I think that's true. Canada has a more Canadian population. Anyway, troops will now push in. Canadian troops are pushing from all sides and will now attempt a very, very, very dumb goal to capture New York, which completely fails, and this costs a lot of resources. So with that embarrassing loss, Canada will continue their expansion in this area, as they will push in and take very resourceful areas. This is not easy. But once Canada reaches Long Island and New York, they don't really get much further. We do see Canadian troops move into Michigan, as we actually see them push out and capture Chicago, as Michigan completely falls over to Canadian control. And at this point, we can kind of see Canada's strategy. They're going to try and... Because with Canadian troops now moving into Wisconsin, it's obvious that Canada's strategy is to capture the Great Lakes, and let's just say this is going to go extremely well, as Canada is able to capture every single area around the Great Lakes except from these areas. This is the core US territory. This ain't going to go down without they ain't going to let this go down without a fight. Now anyway, back to Mexico. How are they looking? Back to Mexico, how are they looking? Oh. Yeah, that's not good. Canada kind of knew Mexico wouldn't do well here, but with how bad they literally just did there, it's kind of embarrassing to see Mexico get slapped this hard. Baja California is completely taken over, and we just see Mexico getting mauled by the United States. At this point, the people in Canada, the population of Canada, and also Canada as a whole, they kind of look at this war and go, was this a good idea? And that answer comes back with, obviously, this was a stupid idea. I don't think you could buff Canada. If you buff Canada to the max, literally to the very max, I still don't think they could beat the United States. They'd put up a fight, but they wouldn't win. In fact, any country in the world except from China, which I think would stalemate the USA, I don't think any country in the world except China could even fight the USA. The USA is that powerful. Their technology is so advanced. They have a crazy navy. If you put any country against the USA, they'd win. The only countries they wouldn't win against is China, Russia, and probably India. But any other country, they would win eventually. So Canada has a new strategy. Blitzkrieg. Yeah, that strategy that Germany did in World War II against the Soviet Union, and it failed. That's what Canada's going to do here. They're going to try and take as much land as possible and hopefully get, any land out of a peace treaty. So Canadian troops from Vancouver will just flood out. They begin to march into Washington State and capture the entire thing. And they'll begin marching around the coast and eventually get stopped to California. But we see complete capturing of Oregon and Washington, and yeah, it's kind of like, at this point, Canada's sending everything they've got out there. Canadian troops are now flooding into this area of the United States, which I have no idea what's here. They're probably not. I mean, I don't know what's here. I mean, like, other than, like, obviously the Dakotas and other than that, what is here, honestly? Now, Canada's captured a good chunk of land. Only problem is that land is not very valuable. So Canada will now make a very costly push to capture the rest of the Great Lakes. And I say costly push because this is a very costly push. This is not only to capture the Great Lakes, but to also keep Toronto and Ottawa safe from being captured. But at this point, Canada is going to be stopped. First off, they're running out of resources. Second, their armies are exhausted. This takes out a good majority of Canadian army. Canada will attempt some pushes here and there, like they try and push out here, but eventually that fails. But other than that, they're going to begin getting pushed back, and Mexico, well, let's just say Mexico is not looking good, and Nicaragua is not looking good as well. Canada and the USA look at each other and go, you know what, let's sign a peace treaty. Now, why is USA up to sign a peace treaty? Well, because they're gonna have a win and lose. They're gonna be able to take over a bunch of Mexico, get Cuba, maybe pop in Nicaragua. And honestly, what they're gonna lose isn't very valuable, other than, you know, they won't lose Chicago. I know in the peace treaty that they would not give up Chicago. But other than that, New York, Washington D.C., San Francisco, Tampa, all those major cities are still safe. They still have the most economic developed areas, except for New England. So the USA and Canada and all the other countries in this war will sit down a peace treaty and we'll discuss how to, you know, divide each other up. In the peace treaty, we can see that Canada got some. I mean, I don't know. With what they sacrificed, I don't think they got a lot of land out of this. Anyway, taking a look at the peace treaty, Canada will be fully annexing Alaska, which is a huge win. They'll be annexing a good chunk of Washington, a lot of this, like a little bit of Central America, not Central America. They'll annex all of Maine, as well as a good chunk of other states, and we'll also annex a chunk of Wisconsin and a bunch of Michigan, getting a lot bigger and also the Great Lakes in all reality. For the losing side, we have Mexico losing a ton of land. This just hurts to look at for Mexico. I mean, they joined the war thinking they'd win, they didn't win. Cuba gets fully annexed, and Nicaragua is given a new pro-US government. Venezuela isn't touched. Now, is Canada done? No. They have one more country they want to, you know, invade, and it's kind of revenge. And, well, they're just gonna do this. They call France into the war, and, once Britain realizes it's already a bit too late, Canada will begin its invasion of the British, will begin its invasion of Britain. Ah, yes, reverse colonialism. The country who was conquered takes over the country that conquered them. This is just, you know, average. Now, Northern Ireland gets turned into nothing. And, at this point, the Canadian Navy is something to be scared of. I mean, with how many areas they have to, like, go to, you want to be scared of their Navy. It's probably up there with the Royal Navy, which is going to get obliterated in Scotland. And once Canadian troops land in Scotland, Scotland will just break away from the United Kingdom and declare independence. France's Navy's getting smoked over here, but, you know, with Canadian troops now sneaking their way down, you know, getting into Wales, taking over Cardiff and bye-bye Wales, you know, it's getting a bit scary. And at this point, the United Kingdom is going to be like, okay, can we do a peace treaty? And Canada's like, no. Canada will make probably the most brutal push ever, taking London, and, well, the UK surrenders. Let's take a look at this peace treaty. And in the final peace treaty of this video, Canada will be annexing Scotland, Wales, a chunk of England, and Northern Ireland, while France will be gaining the southern area of the United Kingdom, leaving England to be very crippled and very upset. Anyway, that is gonna do it for this video. That is gonna do it for this video of What If Canada Formed an Empire. Definitely one of the funner empires. I had a lot of fun with this one. I feel like Canada, I should have done Canada sooner. I think it was just because of their location. I didn't know how to do it back then, but now I do. I've learned to do be more realistic in air quotes with this series. I do have some announcements. There are still 2 more series that I do not know if I want to make yet. One of them is mapping themed. The other one is kind of a mix of both, gaming and mapping. I don't know if I want to, because right now we have the Empire series ongoing, and obviously my Civilization series. I don't know if I want to continue. These two are going to continue, but it's just for the future, and when these series come to an end, what are we going to be uploading on this channel? I mean, we have the Loading series, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in the Marvel Rivals. Oh god, who knows, I could not be in nothing tomorrow. Probably not. Anyway, that is going to do it for What If Canada Formed an Empire. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.